Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. My name is Terrell.
My name is Brendan.
And we are BNT Reaction. Today we're going to be checking out Film Theory, How to Freeze Elsa, Disney Frozen 2. Oh, I'm excited to see how we're going to freeze Elsa.
Yeah, I love Film Theory.
We love Film Theory. We're definitely excited to check his new video, so let's get into it.
So, punk, where's Queen Elsa? You were the last ice block she made, so now it's time to talk. Playing it cool, huh? Well, we have ways.
Playing it cool. You better tell him or he gonna melt you.
Ha! Now you're feeling the heat, so I ask you again. Where is Elsa?
What?
What'd he say? Nothing. Turns out water doesn't have a memory.
He played
or a voice,
tic-tac-toe.
or honestly anything that helps us solve this case. It is literally just water.
Water doesn't have a memory. Oh!
Hello, Internet! Welcome
He made
to
a special
Film
intro
Theory,
for
where it's
Frozen.
January,
Look at him.
that means it's time to YouTube and chill. Since it's too warm in Southern California to build a snowman, whether I wanna or not, I have to find other ways to celebrate this time of year, so I'm cranking out a sequel of my own on Frozen 2.
Woo.
Just a silly but somehow less of a cash grab than Disney's version. Yes, I am ready to break the ice to talk about the most anticipated animated sequel of all time.
Yeah.
The most blatantly merchandisable costume changes in Disney history.
$80
In case you're
for
wondering,
that?
yes, there will be spoilers. So if you don't want to hear the ending, you're gonna want to put this video
Jesus
on ice
Christ.
and go watch the movie
There's
already.
spoilers.
Or, in other words, go.
I haven't seen the movie,
now,
so I don't
despite
care.
the opening of this
I
video,
have.
I'm not
It was
actually
good.
going
I
to
really
talk
don't
about
care.
the
I like
big
spoilers.
theme
I
of this
like the
movie,
movie.
which is water having memory. That's actually a theory for another day. No, instead today, I'm actually turning back to Frozen 1 to address the famous adage from Elsa.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
I don't know if you've heard this one, guys, but the cold never bothered Elsa anyway. Apparently, that's their reasoning for her walking around on mountaintops with silkwood
Yeah,
bands
that
and gowns
castle
that are
was-
easy
that
to mass
castle was
produce for the
beautiful,
children
though.
of the world.
It was.
In one of her most famous lines from the most famous song in the movie, Elsa lets us all know that part of her power set is that she's impervious to how cold her ice castle is. Not only that, but she walks around in the snow and has a gown with a very chilly-looking neckline. But it doesn't seem to matter because none of it can affect her. Seems like a very clearly defined power set. I can respect that. And then you
Okay.
fast forward to Frozen 2 where they throw all of it out the window. In Frozen 2, we have this massive climactic
has her
moment
hair
near the end of
out?
the movie where we
Oh,
see
yeah, she was
Elsa
so pretty.
freeze solid. What? We
Yeah, she
just
freezes.
went over how Elsa can't be hurt from the cold.
What?
How she's
Wait, okay.
literally swimming in the Arctic Ocean and walking around in this permafrost forest for days in a jacket that's perfect for your next trip to Walt Disneyland, by the way. And when we see her defeated, it's by freezing her to death. Not only is it a blatant ripoff of the climax of the last movie where Anna froze to death, but it just doesn't make sense with Elsa's power set. The cold doesn't bother her. So you know what? The question I, as a theorist watching this movie, have today, well, there are just so many questions, but the question I want to ask today is this. How cold does it have to be to bother Elsa? Clearly, she's not immune to freezing,
Like cold,
so
cold.
what temperature does she freeze at? What is actually going on in this scene?
now looking
Where is
back,
the
it doesn't make
temperature that we get ourselves a nice Elsa-cole? Now, in case you didn't feed
Oh,
the
that
beast of
lottie-
the Disney
that-
sequel
that
machine,
Elsa,
or remember
ice
this
cream
movie
looked
is fun, or you
terrible.
just checked out after the words North Uldra and Atuhalan were repeated like 47 times in this movie for 4-year-olds. Elsa winds up in this chilly little predicament after embarking on a quest at the behest of, well, almost nothing. Some spirits who are whispering to her or something and almost killing her entire kingdom, but they're not the same spirits who are trapped in the misty wood. It's super confusing.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
inconsistent, and not that well written, okay? I gotta get that off my chest. Anyway, she journeys around the north to claim her place as the ultimate ice queen. She abandons her sister, who clearly has PTSD from the last movie, and is angry about being left alone on this journey, which is a plotline that never gets resolved. Fantastic. She rides a horse mermaid hybrid up to the North Country and
Yeah.
forgets about
Yeah,
Kristoff
that's
along
good,
with the rest
though.
of the cast and crew of this movie, who is left alone to sing an 80s inspired power ballad. The real theory
He
here
has
is
a-
whether Disney knew how
interesting.
badly put together this movie was, but I really don't need to get myself started on that. Long story short, what you need to know for this theory is by the end of the movie, Elsa finds herself in the North Country in a dark, mysterious ice cave of self-discovery. She falls a long distance into it. That's it. She freezes. Eventually, she gets thawed by the power of who even cares anymore. Let's pretend for the sake of this theory that they were
Powers
trying to
of
make a
plot.
movie with logical cohesion and address how the heck a literal ice queen could possibly freeze to death. Is there an actual scientific explanation here, or was someone just banking on a little too much Disney magic? If we're trying to figure out how chilling it needs to be for Elsa to freeze, we need to get some perspective on temperatures that we're dealing with throughout these movies.
Elsa,
We know that Elsa has no problem surviving the cold in the movie's two primary settings, Arendelle and the Northern Forest, as well as most of the other time
I had to watch the second one
Sea and
for real.
It's
Attilalan.
good.
How cold are these places, and how much colder is it when Elsa actually winds up freezing? Arendelle, as you might already know, is a cross between Arendal and Bergen in Norway. Arendal for its namesake, and Bergen for its architecture and scenery. We discussed this in our previous little Frozen theory about the fact that Anna and Elsa shouldn't be biological sisters, which, in case you're interested, you can catch up on here if you missed it. Since that theory,
What?
Disney's released more information
Yeah, I
about
think I saw
Arendelle,
that.
I did
including
not
a
see
map
that
shown
one.
in Frozen Fever, which we can then
That
cross-reference
was like
with
a
the
couple
geography
years
of
old.
Norway. Since the only real feature here is the forked rivers, I searched for similar geographic areas in Norway and found Ålesund, an area that lined up almost perfectly with a little map manipulation. The historic highs and
Okay.
lows for Ålesund in the fall, which is when the movie begins, is 7.7 to 12.2 degrees Celsius, or 46 to 54 degrees Fahrenheit,
not
which
that bad.
gives us our parallels to Arendelle. Interestingly, Ålesund doesn't get very cold. Even in the winter, the highs and lows tend to hover just above freezing, meaning that Elsa's winter wonderland in Frozen 1 would have been much colder than the geographic norm. Additionally, we know North Uldra, the enchanted forest, is within a day or two wagon ride from Arendelle, so we're likely looking at the same temperature averages there as well.
Okay.
Maybe a degree or two of difference. None of the people living there seem to be keeling over from frostbite, so Elsa can just survive there like everyone else. So with those two out of the way, we can actually focus on the more northern locations of the movie, the North Sea and Åtvidaberg. As Elsa journeys north, again after abandoning her sister in the middle of nowhere, we reach a point where, according to the Frozen Fever map, she runs into the Nordsøen, which is Danish for North Sea. Now, the closest body of water north of Norway on a real-world map is the Norwegian Sea. Interestingly, the name of the Norwegian Sea roughly translates to Sea of the North, so it's a fair stand-in. A bit of research will tell you that the Norwegian Sea, especially the areas close to the coastline that we're dealing with, all max out at about 5.9 degrees Celsius or 40.8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not exactly prime surfing
That's cold
temperature.
water. That's
Zero
cold water.
minimum
cold.
That's cold
of
water.
1.3 degrees Celsius or 36.2 degrees Fahrenheit are reported. So waters that are just barely above freezing,
Yeah, that's
making
cold.
this
Yeah.
some seriously cold water
So
and
go off,
easily
Elsa.
enough to kill a normal person in a matter of minutes.
Yep.
Interestingly, Elsa's ability to survive in the cold water is perhaps more impressive than her ability to survive in icy castles on dry land, especially when you look at the thermodynamics of a human in water. Falling into water as warm as 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius can trigger what's known as a cold shock response, which is the same response you get if your shower suddenly runs
Yeah.
cold. You gasp from surprise as a reflexive part of the response,
And
but
you
if you're in a
start
freezing
shivering.
ocean,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
gases
like,
water down into your lungs. Your limbs are
Ew.
suddenly stunned from the shock of the cold, and you drown almost immediately. If that's not scary enough,
Oh.
or if you manage to avoid the cold shock response, you're still not in for a good time. Even if you're in control of your body to begin with, you lose control of your limbs in about 10 minutes at water 50 degrees or lower. In
Ooh.
hypothermia, your
I didn't know
internal
that.
body temperature dropping below 95 degrees sets in under an hour, even in the best possible conditions. So for Elsa to survive even minutes in the North Sea waters, she would have had to have been wearing the equivalent of several immersion water survival suits, these big old rubbery looking things. This means that in water where other people are literally paralyzed and where body temperatures would drop below survivability in a matter of minutes, Elsa's maintaining a normal internal body temperature and ice surfing with the best of them. It is unbelievable, but it doesn't freeze her. That said, we do have one final location to consider. Åtvidaberg is the glacier island that Elsa rides to
Okay.
in what seems like a few minutes from North Uldra. Well, initially I wanted to say that this was intended to be Iceland, since the crew from Frozen 2 visited Iceland for geographic inspiration on the movie. It's just too far north. Honestly, the closest coast of Iceland is about 900 miles from Ålesund, or any part of the Norwegian coast, which would take a horse, even a magic water horse, like 40 hours of straight running at top speed with no rest. To make our movie travel more realistic, I chose the small island of, can't pronounce those letters, just off
Oh
the
my
coast of
God.
Norway. There's also possibilities like Bear Island up here, but you know, they all function basically
Bear
about the
Island?
same, so just
That's a
loop
small
them all
island.
in as potential Åtvidaberg stand-ins. Interestingly, all these types of islands tend to have sub-zero temperatures at least 9 months out of the year, meaning that when Elsa likely lands in Åtvidaberg, the temperature is going to cause water to freeze directly onto her skin immediately. On top of that, she's facing ocean winds, which will give her a wind chill effect, making it feel even colder colder for her.
Yeah.
Starting at -5°C, the average temperature for unpronounceable Norwegian island in November, we can
Unpronounceable
calculate
Norwegian
wind
island,
chills
me.
for 10 to 30
Ooh.
miles per hour, or 16 to
That's
48
cold.
kilometers per hour. At these winds, Elsa's feel-like
That's a lot.
temperature is
That's
going to be
fast
about
wind.
-10°C to -15
Ooh.
degrees Celsius, or
Okay.
12 degrees Fahrenheit to 5 degrees
Oh,
Fahrenheit.
no.
Even then, there's not even a shiver. So we know, even at
That's her
temperatures
feel-like
significantly
temperature?
below freezing, it is still not cold enough to bother her. So geez, how cold does it need to be? For
Well,
me,
she's
this seems
ice
like a
queen.
research dead end since
But she
we can't
freezes
even guess
in the
about
movie.
temperature
That's why I'm
and
real
what stage she's
confused.
in, how far she's falling, things like that. Heck, inside the cave, it probably should be warmer because she's not subjected to being wet in the wind. That said, there is one thing that we can still speculate about. Elsa herself. What if instead of looking at the air around her, the water that she's impossibly swimming through, all of that stuff, what if we stop comparing her to the way that humans freeze and stop assuming that she's human at all? Instead of assuming that her body functions like a normal person's body, it might make more sense to assume that it functions like the element that she's associated with, ice. Let's take a look at the moment that Elsa
Okay.
freezes again. We see her jump into the ice chasm to follow her past. She falls for a couple of seconds and we see her make a quick landing on her hands and fingertips, like this. A moment later, she hears the truth about what terrible imperialists her people were. We see her start to freeze again at her fingertips and toes, where she landed. Interestingly, it may be the only scientifically accurate part of this movie, Elsa is freezing like ice. To better explain what I mean here and what's actually happening to Elsa and how her body
Oh,
functions,
okay.
I'm gonna have to flip it to live action.
So it starts from the top
Hey,
and the bottom
film
like ice
theorist,
does, and then it
Matt
makes
Pat
its way
here.
to the middle.
Might not look like it because I have less hair up here.
Look at Matt Pat.
Ah, look at you.
That's what happens when
He
you
looks
do a
good with the
live
haircut.
stream and put your hair
Oh,
on the line.
he
I'll be back to my
shaved
old
his
self
head.
in like T-3 months, who knows. Anyway, let's do some real world science, shall we? Back in high school, because, you know, this is not child-directed content, only 13 and up here on this channel, you may have done yourself a little experiment in the realm of
That was a
super
shot to
cool.
you.
I know,
Now,
the
there are
Copa
lots
stuff.
of YouTube videos out there on this, but I didn't feel like trying to license those because they're expensive, and doing science myself is really fun and cool. So anyway, super cooling is just one of those really nerdy things that's fascinating to talk about and even more fascinating to watch in person. And frankly, I just kind of want to try it here, since I have the ability and people to film me doing this sort of stuff, so why not take advantage of that? This is also one of those rare things on YouTube that you can actually do yourself. It
Let's
might
do
take
it.
a couple of times to get it right, but
I
the
don't
idea
know.
is to cool
You
a
can
bottle
do
of
it.
water. I'm gonna go get the bottle of water. I'm gonna take off my microphone and then get the bottle. Oh, and it's taped into my jacket. Chris is gonna go get the bottle of water. Thank you, Chris. Hopefully super chilled, ready to be crystallized. Now, the things that you gotta note here are the water, first and foremost, needs to
That's
be
water?
clean,
I'm
and it
not
needs to be
saying.
left very still. Now,
That's clean
this
water.
is because in a freezer,
It's
water
yellow.
will actually cool below freezing temperatures after a couple hours, but still have a magic area where it stays in a liquid state.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have what's called a seed crystal. Just a couple of crystal structures in the water that ice can form onto. Now,
Okay.
there's a lot of complicated math that goes behind seed crystals, but for our purposes, we're going to think about Elsa in Frozen 2 as our little bottle of water here. Probably could have cut out a face and stuck it on here, right? Little Adele Dazeem action figure here. She looks human, right? But in the movie, because she represents the ice element at a molecular level, her body is actually behaving more like freezing water than it does a person. Now, when Elsa falls down in that ice cave and hits the bottom, we suddenly see her whole body crystallize into an Elsa popsicle. Kind of like we should see with this experiment. Ready, Dan? Ready, Chris? It's gonna land right here. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Huh. Yeah.
And you see it, it's going. What you're seeing here are water molecules suddenly colliding
we
into
can
each
try
other.
that. That's
a little seed
cool.
crystal at the top, and all the water molecules hitting into it and glomming on, crystallizing into that structure, proceeding all the way down into the bottle until now you have mostly ice with a little bit of water left over.
Okay.
How much?
That don't look like safe water though.
Okay, a little bit more than I expected.
I think they put
But
food coloring in
you
it.
can
I
see
hope
Yeah.
they
that
did.
as soon as there was a big impact on that
Yeah, they
bottle,
did.
disturbing the super chilled water
Oh, you can see
inside
it
of
better
it,
in the green.
the entire thing crystallized from the top down to the bottom. Now, this happened because when the bottle dropped onto the table, it sent a shockwave through the liquid, literally forcing water
so like when
molecules
Elsa
to bump
dropped
into
down.
each other. Through randomness, that extra movement eventually results in water molecules forming something close to the crystal structure of ice. Once that happens, the water suddenly has the seed crystals that it needs, and now more water molecules quickly bump into that seed crystal and align themselves into the proper structure, locking in and freezing almost instantly.
That's interesting that if you hit like
Elsa's
the cold water
case in
before
Frozen
that.
2, we see the crystallization or nucleation process, as it's called, start from her extremities, right? Her feet and her fingertips, where she landed on the ground. But if we were really being scientifically accurate, it would actually start from the top of her head, because that is the end of the shock wave that she experienced from falling. That said, this experiment still provides the best explanation that we have about how an ice queen could freeze to death. She's not a human who controls ice. At a molecular level, she actually is ice herself. In a very roundabout way, this explanation
I did
also
not
helps us
never think
understand
of Elsa
why
being
Elsa
ice.
is impervious to cold climates,
That is interesting.
cold air. Heck, even brutal
So can
wind
she
chills.
melt?
At a molecular level, Elsa
Maybe. I mean,
I'm melting,
She's
no.
super cool.
Frozen 3,
meaning
Elsa
that
takes
they're
on
not
summer.
cooling her. She is the one that's cooling them. It's science, it's Frozen, and it is super cool. Literally and figuratively. Fascinatingly, even understanding that Elsa's body functions like a supercooled liquid, it still doesn't give us a true sense of her molecular temperature. According to a 2018 study at the University of Frankfurt in Germany, supercooled water can reach temperatures of negative 42.55 degrees Celsius, or negative 44 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning that Elsa has the potential to achieve a massive range of temperatures that would allow her to not only survive the harshest conditions on Earth, but even survive in some places on freezing planets like Mars. And all of this actually makes sense in the context of the movie, for as convoluted as its lore is. Just like the earth giants are made of rock, the wind spirit is literally just wind, and the water horse is water, just ignore that dumb little cute fire lizard, Elsa is made up of the element that she controls. If she truly is the fifth elemental creature, which honestly she shouldn't be because ice isn't an element that's different from water horse over there, but still, if ice truly is a different element in this world, her being super cooled and only freezing from a landing that strikes hard makes perfect sense. So, in an ironic twist, Elsa truly is impervious to cold, as long as she doesn't get smacked too hard by anything. For future reference to all the villains in the inevitable Frozen 3, skip all the swords or guns or flamethrowers or
So
whatever.
there's gonna be a
just give
Frozen 3.
Elsa a
Probably
good
so,
old
but that
whomp
movie
with a
was
frying
like-
pan Tangled style, or get into a particularly
But they just
aggressive
hit her with
pillow
a frying
fight,
pan
and
and she'll
frankly,
freeze.
she is
Yeah.
done for. Don't tell anyone I tipped you off though, because if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know that Mickey Mouse and I already have ourselves a chilly relationship. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And this island that I cannot pronounce, nor can I find any online pronunciation guide because it's just really hard to find pronunciations for very small areas. Can I just say first, sorry, cut the video. All you travel logs on YouTube right now, why do you not talk in them? There are so many Norwegian travel logs that I've clicked on as I research this video, hoping that
calling
someone
them
will
out.
teach me how to
I mean,
pronounce the names of these places.
in the vlog, don't you
They're
talk?
just clips set to music with moderate amounts of text on top. It's not helping me. Please teach me how to pronounce these places. Not even Wikipedia has a pronunciation guide for this one. Sorfuglioa. I mean, look at these letters. What am I supposed to do with this? It's a zero. It's an O.
It's
Pick
a
cross out. It's
zero.
like, no thank you, O. This is a no pronunciation
No
O.
thank you,
And
O.
No, thank
G's
you.
Who even puts a G there? Sorfugloa.
Sorfugloia.
Can someone
Sorfugloia.
watching this video in Norway, can you
Sorfugloia.
please upload videos of you
I don't know.
pronouncing
I think we're both butchering
Sorfugloa,
it.
and then link them to me on Twitter, MattPatGT, or in the Game Theorists subreddit, and I will try to make a greatest hits compilation of all of them. We'll do a community tab post or something.
Okay, bet.
That'd be great.
Let's
Please
do it.
teach me how to pronounce Sorfuglia. Cut.
Yeah, that is a hard word to pronounce.
Sorfoglora.
So, I'm not
I
even
don't
gonna
know.
try.
That's interesting now.
Yeah,
Elsa's
that was
water.
funny. Elsa is ice.
She's cold water.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. I always thought she was human who had like ice powers. But, like to actually think like she's water, like ice.
Because she is
It's
technically
crazy.
she's a lost element in the new movie. It's real weird.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
cool though. That's cool. I have to see it. I'm definitely late on like the Frozen 2. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, but
I
there's,
wanted to see it,
there's
but-
also going to be a Frozen 3. Frozen 2 are surpassed the original Frozen.
Yeah, like it
with
that,
sales, so.
and yeah, the original Frozen was like the highest grossing animated movie. So if
Yeah.
that surpassed that, then Frozen 2. Disney is just hitting the gold market with this Frozen. I don't know. It was interesting to see like that she was like ice and water.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. I do have to really catch up though because I haven't seen it.
It was good. It does make sense now, like, that she dropped. Because I was thinking back, like, she really froze. But, like...
Yeah.
Because, like, also, like, that also confused me because when she froze, they kind of were like, oh, yeah, she's dead. But I was like, can't she just unthaw? Like, I wasn't really believing that she was dead. Because I was like, she's ice. Like, I was real confused.
Yeah, Matt Pat does a lot of research in these videos. Like, a lot of research.
He was putting out science with, like,
Yeah.
an animated movie. I was like,
a lot
okay,
of
go
research.
off.
But it's good, though. And it's interesting, like, to see and, like... I don't know. His videos are always fun and it's
Yeah.
interesting to watch.
They are.
It's good.
I did. I liked it.
Yeah, guys, but that's all for this video. If you like this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you also hit that subscribe button and comment down below some more reaction requests. It can be more film theory or anything, and we'll react to it.
Frozen 2.
And also, make sure you follow us on our social medias. Yeah. Well, that is all for this video, guys, and we are out. Bye.
Bye.